going to keep. So I'm going to get started. I see a lot of familiar people. I see a lot of Utah people on the call today. So hello, all my Utah friends. But most of you know me. I'm Heather Roxburgh with the Roxburgh Group. And then I'm with my partner, Kat. We are the founders and owners of Be Epic Marketing. So we provide a digital marketing suite for real estate agents that kind of hits all the marketing pillars. So it's fun, creative, and very personalized. So we like to do these monthly webinars, strategy webinars, just to help our members and other agents grow their businesses and learn some new things where we see a need. We will try and tackle that on one of our webinars. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Deanna Bone. She is a very dear, dear friend of mine and a really badass agent, I'm just going to say, out of Arizona. Deanna, she's in her 20 years of real estate. So she just is having a 20-year celebration. So congrats to that. You've survived a lot. But Deanna is the CEO and she is the mastermind behind the Southwest Home Team. And she essentially covers, all of Arizona. So if you have an Arizona referral, send them to her. If she can't cover it, she's got an agent that can. And she's been doing this buyer broker agreement with her clients for almost 5 years now. And like she said, she did a presentation with my team. It's pretty phenomenal what she's put together. And when I initially had, I need to mute somebody here. When I initially had Deanna present to my team, I learned from her that she had increased her average price point and actually grew her business just by doing this presentation. I feel like buyers took her more seriously, and she's going to speak to that. So Deanna, stage.
All right, awesome. So what we're going to do is, if everybody could just stay muted until the end of the presentation. We were talking a little bit about that today. I've got some information here that I want to share about what's going on, why all this started, and knock on wood, I started it before the lawsuit came, and that really helped. But really my goal today is just to kind of give you tips and tricks on meeting each of your buyers up front, enhancing your ability to set your expectations in clear and precise manner by using the buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. That's kind of what this all is. Now, I'm just going to say I'm probably not the best out there doing this. I can tell you every lender I've spoken to in Arizona, I'm one of the few that does it. And as Heather said, it has increased my average sales price by over $100,000 per transaction. It's averaged where I'm making an additional average about $2,500 per transaction among what even the listing agents are doing based off the buyer broker agreement. So how this all started was, this is a question I asked myself. And I like to ask all of you guys, just kind of think about that. As a buyer's agent, whose job is to make sure you get paid? That's probably the biggest thing. When I'm out mentoring with agents or talking to realtors, everybody said, well, it's, I get paid by the listing, the seller pays me, or the listing agent co-ops with me. Well, guess what, guys? This right now has all changed due to the lawsuits that are coming. The lawsuits out there are, in a nutshell, before we get into that, let me show you this. RE Colorado and the Bright MLS. Bright MLS is the MLS out in Virginia. They are the second largest in the country. Did you realize both of them have already said you no longer have to pay buyer's agents? They're gone. That is no longer official. As we all heard, possibly yesterday, RE/MAX has settled with the lawsuit with $55 million, plus they're changing how their buyer's agents are talking to their agents, the listing agents, all of that. And it's all putting pressure due to a lawsuit, again, a class action lawsuit. There's 3 of them against National Association of Realtors. In a nutshell, the lawsuit claims that NAR rules violate the antitrust laws and inflate the fees paid to buyer's agents by requiring a listing agent to compensate a buyer's agent for listing a property on the MLS. NAR argues that the lawsuits misrepresent association rules as anti-competitive. Here's what they're saying. If you ever said, if we don't give the buyer's agent at least ... they won't show it. If you've ever said, this is the way things have always been done. If you've ever said, this is typical, this is standard, If you've ever said, I refuse to show it if it's less than ... You may have violated the antitrust law. That's exactly what this lawsuit is saying. Now, the sellers that are going into this lawsuit are not saying they would never pay a buyer's agent. They just want to have the right to say yes or no. All of us, including my MLS, says in order to be in the MLS, you must pay something to the buyer's agent. Doesn't matter if it's $1, whatever, right? You must do it. And that's what they don't want. They want to say, I want the option to do it. That's what this lawsuit is saying. If you've ever said any of that, this is where it gets really like, wow, eye-opening. Here's what one of the agents out here in Arizona said. Russell Shaw is one of our top producers in Arizona. He's been doing real estate like 30, 40 years in Arizona, and a lot of us know him. I love what he said about these lawsuits. He said, no one can predict the future of real estate, but you can prepare. So what I'm hoping is that we can kind of give you a little bit of what to prepare and to pivot. Wendy, you kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. You know, we can't change everything that we're doing, but we do need to start pivoting and be prepared for what can happen, because National Association of Realtors actually goes to trial in October. I don't remember the date. I want to say it's like October 10th or the 15th, right around there. And like I said, a lot of it, anywhere real estate, Remax, they're all settling before it even goes to court. The ones that haven't settled quite yet are Keller Williams and, of course, National Association of Realtors. Don't be surprised if they do it the day before we go to court. Here's what they're saying. Some of the possible changes may be coming up. Buyers may start more than ever to go directly to listing agents. We all know that's not right for them to do. They need to have their own representation, but that is something that we may see more so. Brokerages will have models like listings for lower or flat fee commissions to represent buyers. Again, we don't know if this is what's going to happen. This is just what the rumors are out there. Brokerages will start to have different levels of expertise with different prices, depending on the level of service that the buyer's agents or the buyers may get from the agent. So think of this. As we all know, you could go into an attorney and ask an attorney to work for you, or he could give you a legal assistant, and there's different fees, right? You're going to pay him differently than you're going to pay his legal assistant because she doesn't have or he doesn't have as much experience as the actual attorney. They said that is something that could happen as well. So this is where I'm saying it's time to pivot, and it's time to start thinking about what we can do to create value as a realtor. I know when National Association of Realtors had their conference in Kansas City, they're already talking about making the buyer broker mandatory. Now, I know a lot of realtors in the past, I know, especially when they come across with me, they tell me, well, I don't want to force the buyer to work with me. Well, don't we do that with the sellers, with the listing agreements? Sure we do. So why are we not doing that with the buyers? Here's where your value proposition will become more important than ever. As a buyer's agent, you have got to get the buyer broker agreement with every buyer ASAP. Know it, use it, embrace it, love it. Stop being a tour guide. That's what they are saying out there. Sellers are actually saying in this lawsuit, why am I paying for a tour guide? They're not really representing the buyer. They're just writing a contract. That's all they're doing. So we need to be the professional that we have the right to be. So get your value, get knowledgeable, and do it. As a listing agent, we need to get better at marketing ourselves and the houses we're selling. Too many are just putting it out on the MLS and have the buyer's agent do the work. Well, that will drop drastically if buyer's agents are no longer providing most of the buyers to your listings. So you have to do that. But what I thought was interesting when I was hearing some of the bigwigs out there on the lawsuits, they said, but this is going to be a bonus from this lawsuit. This is a great way for us to now increase our fees on both sides, but we must show our value and why we deserve to get those higher fees. If we are not either paying the buyer's agent or as a buyer's agent, we should be paid what we believe we're worth. So I thought that was really interesting. And as you remember what Heather said and what I said, I saw an increase in my production, in how much I was walking away with, because I was asking the buyer to pay my compensation. Now, how this all started in Arizona, we are like the guinea pigs. Us and Vegas, we always say we're sister states. We are the ones that started with Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow. They all came into our state because our cookie cutter homes are so good for their algorithms. That is why our commissions in Arizona started disappearing 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when our averages were 1%, 1.5%, 2%. We just could not survive that way. So I had no choice but to go to the buyers and say, okay, guys, if you're going to work with me, this is what it's going to cost you. And hopefully I'm going to teach you how I do that today. If you are going to do something like this, you are going to have a very open conversation with your lenders and title companies. Communication with them must be at day one, even if the buyer comes in with their own lender. So what you need to tell them is, hey guys, if right at the beginning, when you qualify this buyer, they need to also be prepared to pay me whatever your average is in your state. And our average, it could be 0.5% to 1% that the seller is not covering. So I actually ask the lenders to throw in the closing disclosures an estimate of 0.5% to 1%. Because remember, they have to know what their closing cost is from the very beginning. So make sure that you're having a talk with your lenders. Every lender that I have worked with knows this up front. Hey, can you throw in 0.5% or 1%? And can you help me verify that they have the money in order to help cover this? Because if they don't, then I need to have another total different conversation with these buyers. So work with your lenders. And this all has to be on the closing disclosures, which also means working with the title companies. So that's just something out there as an FYI. I can tell you what I've also heard on some of the YouTube videos and things that I've been watching, and I'll give you some of those at the end. They're saying right now that NAR is already having discussions with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to start changing, can we wrap commissions into the loans? Don't know if it's going to happen. It's out there. Another one that you have to watch for is our VA buyers. Our VA buyers cannot pay buyers' agents. Now, is VA going to be in trouble with the antitrust? Could be, we don't know, because they said there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that are just going to trickle down once this happens through NAR. So these are discussions that are happening behind the scenes that we can also see coming to fruition. So just kind of think about that outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the buyer broker exclusive employment agreement. Now, all of our states should have one. They're all different. They all have different rules. So I'm going to tell you that you need to go to your state and read your buyer broker exclusive agreement, get to know it, understand it, talk to your brokers about it, see what they want you to do with it. Like I said, Arizona is one of the few as well that has the lovely retainer fee involved in it. I do charge a retainer fee, but the last year or two, there are ways you can waive the retainer fee to get them to help you compensate for paying your commission if you want. So it all depends on what you want to do, but know that there are retainer fee options that you can do as well. So if you have a buyer that you're not quite sure is going to buy, you might want them to help compensate for your time. So think about that. Look into it. See if your buyer broker agreement offers that. Here's what I found out. Is it the fee or is it the feeling why buyers don't want to pay, right? Because this is all between the realtors' heads. When it comes to commissions, what truly most important to the client? Is it the fee you charge or is it the feeling you give them in terms on how they're going to be taken care of in the transaction? You must take your own feelings out of the equation. Most agents approach the commission discussion full of fear. You cannot do that. This leads you into a trap of making yourself a commodity, and you can't do it. Think about when you go to a doctor. What do? They give you right then and there, these are the fees. You go to an attorney, what do? Right now, here's my fees, and here's why you're going to pay it. You don't even think twice about that. So why are we so scared to do it when we should have that same level of professionalism as a doctor and an attorney? Instead, your new approach is to turn your commission discussion into a conversation about trust and why they do that. And how do you show your trust? It's all going to be in the buyer presentation. So every slide that you have in your presentation needs to be based off education and showing your value. So I'm going to ask you right now, think about it. What does your buyer presentation say right now? Now, what's amazing is how many realtors do not have a buyer presentation at all. Well, you're going to need one more than ever based off all these lawsuits that are now coming to fruition. So I'm going to show you little bits about my presentation. I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks about what you should have in your presentation. And then hopefully you can start creating that today. So it all starts with knowing your value and setting your expectations. Notice I have your in caps. This is not the buyer's world. This is our world, and we need to throw them into our values, into our expectations. And here's what you have to understand. This starts before you ever meet with your buyer. You have to make a list of all your expectations and just put it in a presentation. Heather may have different expectations than I do. Wendy may have different expectations than I do. So put down what is yours. Put your core values in. Someone asked, I think it was Tracy, asked about the leadership conference that we just attended with Buffini and Company. Well, he talked about the core values. Throw your core values in there. Throw in your mission statement in there. Right? Throw your education in there. Throw what we do, what we're doing right now today with all of our education. Your goal needs to stand out against other agents day one. Show them why you are different and why they should work with you. And it all starts with the first meeting. I've had so many realtors say, well, I'm going to go ahead and show them houses day one just so they can see how I work. Are you kidding me? Nothing is given for free. Gas and time is money. I don't know about you guys, but gas now is almost $6 in Phoenix. Well, I can't afford just to go see if you want to work with me by going to meet you at a house that might take a gallon or 2 or 3 of my gas, plus how much am I hourly paid? Think about that. Stop giving away a store. Now, here's what I've told the team, my team. This is not for every buyer we meet. But every buyer that we work for will follow our expectations and they will sign the buyer broker agreement. Be happy with the ones that walk away. Say, okay, so did you see what I said? This isn't for all buyers, but it's for all buyers we work with. So you have to be okay to say, there are going to be buyers that are going to walk away from me, and that's okay. When I made that distinction to say it's okay with this and then educate my team to say it's okay, that is where we started seeing our average sales price jump up. That is where we started seeing more commission coming in and all the easier buyers because we set the expectations day one. However, you must believe in yourself and your values before you can sell it to your buyers. So do you believe in your values? Do you believe in your core mission statements? Your professionalism does not change with the speed of the market, so neither should your value. Brian told us all that we came from a speed market and we're now in a professional market. So remember, I've been doing this even during the speed markets. I didn't change. It was like, nope. So every single buyer I meet on Zoom. Every buyer. I don't care if they call me off my sign and they want to see the house. Great. You know what? I find if a buyer will spend about 20 to 30 minutes with me online, we can make sure that house fits your needs, right? So think about that. I don't care if you meet them at a coffee shop, you can do that. You can meet them at your office, you can do that. I just found on Zoom speeds it up and it goes tremendously well and tremendously fast. One of the biggest dialogues I found that works throughout my whole presentation is I say, if we choose to work together, Heather, this is what it's going to be. I say this throughout almost every slide. If we choose to work together. So I'm already telling them if we work together, if you like me, if I like you. This is like the golden goose that I realized, and you just keep shaking your heads, yes. And then all of a sudden, by the time your presentation's over, the buyers are saying, well, do you have room for me? Can you get me in? Where do I sign? because I'm showing them every step of the way what I'm doing for them. And what's crazy, it's what you all do as well, but we just don't tend to put it in a presentation to do it. So again, how are you getting them to buy into you before you even start showing it? It's all in the dialogues. It's all in the wording. It's all in the belief system. So I do say all the time, if we choose to work together, you are going to work with my team. And then I go over, this is actually one of the slides in my presentation where I tell them, being a full-time real estate team for over 20 years, we understand you have a choice in realtors that you use. The choice should be someone who keeps up with what benefits you the most. So if you choose to work with us, please understand, I know that your wants and your needs are number one. Not every buyer is the same, so I can't treat you the same way that I just treated the buyer I met yesterday. And markets change, and so should our knowledge of the market. And then I introduce what everybody on my team is going to do so they understand. Now, for all of you that don't have a team, you can throw in your lender. You could throw in your title company. You could throw in your home inspector here. You can throw in your home warranty company here. Let them know that you're big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Right? So it all starts with introducing your team. And then I go into what each person does at each different stages. The very next thing that I go over with them is the agenda. I let them know we're going to be discussing all of this. Now I have a slide on all of these, right? Notice the most important slide is the second to last. That's where I'm going over my fees. Now, with my sellers, I go over my fees right before I go into everything else, because if not, the sellers are going to go almost like the Charlie Brown cartoons with the teacher would talk. If you tell them everything you do and then go into the fees, all they hear is wah, wah, wah. What is this going to cost me? What is this going to cost me? So with my sellers, I bring it up front, but my buyers, I do it at the bottom. So it's the second to last that I'm going to tell them what my fees are, because I'm going to win them and tell them why they're going to pay it. Okay. Now, again, you may have a lot more, you might have a lot less. One of the most important slides I found is showing them my promise to them and my mission statement to them. Do you have a promise? Show it. What is it? I don't know. We're all different, right? Our promise is to always do our best. That's all we can promise, right? To be completely upfront, to become their trusted advisor. And then I share my mission statement. I help families build wealth one house at a time. What is your mission statement? Are you sharing that? Maybe throw in your core values here. What's funny is we all have it, but not all of us share it. So again, I'm already showing them how we're different. Another really important slide to have is the pulse of the market, because you're educating them on the seller's market versus the buyer's market, housing supply, low inventory. You've got to discuss this with them because they're hearing something different. They're hearing that the sky is falling and our prices are going to drop 50% in the next year, right? So I'm going through all this, again, not because I need to know it, but I want to show them why they're going to pay me, because the next realtor they're talking to is not doing this. And they're going, oh my God, you're already doing more than most realtors I've ever talked to. The first time I start bringing up how I get paid is going to be during the financing. Okay. This is when I'm going over the closing costs. What I do is in the closing costs. Now, traditionally, I don't care where you are in the country, most of the time, and I do see, Kelly's here. She could probably confirm this at the end. It's traditionally $5,000 to $7,000 in closing costs before you start paying down rates, right? Before you start paying some of the other stuff out there. So what I do is I add, because I know in Arizona, it's about 0.5% to 1% of my commission. I add that to the 5 to 7. So I actually tell them, hey, I tell them the difference in the down payment, and I tell them the difference in closing costs. And I say, now, Heather, just to let you know, closing costs are going to be between $8,000 and $9,000 versus the 5 to 7. So I'm already warning them and adding my fee to it. Now, if your lender goes out at the end and says, oh, guess what? It's only going to be $7,200. They think you're God because you told them it was 8 to 9, right? And they're like, oh my God, woo, yay. So right now is when I start adding my commission without telling them what I just did. So now they're already getting comfortable with, so is $8,000 to $9,000, Heather, something you're going to be able to come up with? Now, just to remind you, that's before if you want to buy down the rates, right? Because that's a whole different ballpark. But I'm letting them know up front, my commission is going to be part of that. And I will say it in the next 2 slides. But right now I added it to the price. Does that make sense? Then I go into the agency. Of course, in Arizona, all states are different. We have to go into the agencies, right? Well, this is the slide that I first start bringing up. What is a listing agent? What is a selling agent? What is the dual agency? And then I go into, hey, and by the way, if we work together, you are going to get a welcome email. And in that welcome email, you're going to get the real estate agency disclosure and election that pretty much just says what I just told you. You're also going to get a copy of my buyer exclusive employment agreement. Now, Heather, all this means, it doesn't mean you have to buy a home. It just if we choose to work together, you're going to sign it and only work for me. And you're also going to get the buyer advisory. You're also going to get the residential purchase contract. We go a little bit into that, but you see how I bring up that buyer broker immediately at that time. Now, this is where I start talking about how I get paid. This is the most important slide that you're going to have. Number one, I talk about my business hours. And yes, we all need business hours. I don't know about you guys, but I can't work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, nor can my team. But I pretty much tell them, look, my business hours are 8 to 5, and I let them know why I'm closed on Wednesdays. I don't know about your state, but I can tell them straight out, you know what? For the most part, most people put their homes on the market Thursdays and Fridays. We're showing them Saturday and Sundays. We're negotiating Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then that's usually Wednesday's the lull time. But I always give them the bonus and say, but you know what, Heather, if I'm working on a deal for you Tuesday night, I'm not taking Wednesday off. I'm there for you. Then the very next thing is by appointment only. I love this line. I always tell them, oh, and by the appointment, hey, you know what? It's not because that's the hours I work. It's the time the sellers are going to let us in the house. So I'm sorry that if you only want to go on Saturday at 10 a.m., you know what? You may have to go on Saturday at 3 p.m. So what did I just do? I taught them it's not on your time. It's the seller's time. And guess what? It's my time too. But we need to let them know this, right? Put them on our expectations, not the other way around. Then I talk about my fee for service. Notice I do not say the big C word. Okay. Remember how I said it earlier at the beginning? I said Opendoor, OfferPad, and Zillow came very heavily into my state. Well, what they did, they had a big megaphone, lots of money for commercials that said, stop paying commissions. We don't charge commissions. We charge a service fee. So what I said was, fine, you charge a service fee. I charge a fee for service. So flop it, right? And I let them know right then and there, let me explain to you how I get paid. Now, in the state of Arizona, we do have what's called retainer fees. At this moment, you can decide if you want to charge that or not. What I have done this past year, which has been really good, especially because I do a lot of referrals. I usually say, you know what, though, because you were referred to me by Heather, I'm going to go ahead and waive that retainer fee for you. And they're like, oh my God, she just gave me something. But let me tell you what my fee for service is. So Heather, my fee for service is 3% of the purchase price. Now, the good news is for the majority of it, the seller is paying that. But there's a lot of time the seller's going to help you ask you to help compensate for some of that. Now, traditionally, I have found that it's anywhere from 0.5% to 1%. It could be more depending on the seller. Now, the good news is you're going to be able to see it without me even telling you. Just go to Redfin, Zillow, because I hate to tell you, your buyers are going to Redfin. They are going to Zillow. They are going to Realtor.com. It is now stated there, and all of our states do have it sitting right there, how much the buyer's agent compensation is. Now, you will always know on the house, Heather, that you and I make an offer on what that compensation will be from you. But just like I said, you can look on there and know. Now, I do not bring it up, every house we show. It's just every house we're going to make an offer on, because that's going to be part of our negotiation, right? On how are you going to ask for closing costs? How much closing costs are we going to ask for? So I let them know that. And I say, you know what? The good part is this, Heather, right now is just going to be part of your closing costs. And they're like, oh, do you have any questions on that? That's exactly right then and there when I bring it up. Do you have any questions? Usually what I get, well, how much is the closing cost again? And I'll say, oh, well, remember, let's talk about your investment. We always talked about the down payment. Remember, we had that slide that talked about, is it going to be 3%, 20%, 50%, whatever it's going to be. Closing costs is going to average $8,000 to $9,000. Remember why I did that. So you need to talk to your lender and find out what is the average in your state, and then add whatever you are seeing the difference is right now. Okay. I have seen a lot lately in Arizona where it says the commission's $1, have your buyer pay it. It says it right in the MLS. So you need to see what your average is. I just know our average in Arizona right now is 0.5% to 1%. And I added it right there. We talked about the earnest money way back ago. So I'm just reminding them. And then I'm just reminding them the fee for service is 3% of the purchase price. And then I talk about the home inspection. And I stop right here and say, now, Heather, do you have any questions about any of your investment opportunities that you may need? Is this their investment? Absolutely. This is their investment into their wealth, into what they're doing. And then usually I'll say, so what questions do you have? I kid you not, 9 out of 10 times is, what's the next step? That's usually what it is, because I'm very confident when I bring out that buyer broker. I'm very confident in what my values are. Now, I didn't show you all the slides because I have 19 slides into mine. And by the way, my slides change almost every month, because does our market change every month right now? Oh my gosh, they change like crazy. So just know you need to be looking at your slides every single time you have a buyer. Every month, look at it. Now, as I finish up right here, I want to tell you, go get this book. This book is a very interesting book that just came out, I believe, last year from Chris Voss. It's called The Full Fee Agent. Now, the book is focused a lot on listings, but you can use so much of that into your buyers presentation. There is so much in there that is so wow. And not only that, remember how I said at the beginning, we're going to have to change our values as listing agents too. So this is a really, really good book. I love it. I open it up. I have highlighted everywhere. It's really good. I do have a couple resources that you can look for on YouTube. And before I forget, if anyone wants a copy of this presentation, just let me know. I'm willing to share it. Not a big deal at all. Just reach out to me and you've got it. There are 2 really good resources on YouTube that talk about that lawsuit and what buyers agents need to have ready to go if all of this goes through. Remax just taught us yesterday, it's going through. It's happening. It's coming. So both of these are very recent, just a few weeks ago, and they're very, very good. So here's some of my final thoughts. You need to prepare your mindset. You need to approach this from a place of courage, curiosity, and confidence. Read the situation. Show up ready to read the other person. Boy, if any of you guys are in Brian Buffini, we all learn about real strengths, right? And how to read people. So read it. Focus on them. Pay attention to the details. Make them feel understood. Your only goal is to get them to say yes to working with you. If they say no, move on. It's okay. Keep going. Be okay to walk away if they do not want to follow your expectations. And be aware and be prepared for what's coming. It's hard until it's not. So in other words, every day you don't do this, it's going to get harder. So you have got to start this today. So now I want to go ahead and open it up, Heather, to any questions, or how do you guys want to follow the next route? I'll let you guys go over. Kat, Heather.
Well, first, thank you. That was all amazing. Will you send me this presentation afterwards? Yep. And I'll get that out to the whole group so everyone has a copy of it.
Absolutely.
I think I did have a question, and I think you answered it after I typed it in, but I had typed, can you include can you include commissions and closing costs? It sounds like not right now. So that's a no.
Well, when you mean combine them, you mean, how do you mean?
Well, if someone, like, let's say, the agent was offering 2.5% BAC, that 0.5%, can that be included in the seller paid closing costs?
It can. Well, in Arizona, it can, because in Arizona, it states very clearly all our contract says is as long as the fees are approved by the lender, it can be covered. It does not break it out saying commission or this or this or this. It just says, how much do you want? And any fees approved by the lender. So you got to read your contract.
Okay.
Make sense? Every contract's different.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying 2 states have already passed this where listing agents don't have to pay.
Also, another one in Texas I just heard, but I'm trying to find that one. I heard a third one is now coming. Tomorrow, I'm going to an industrial meeting in Arizona with our new commissioner. So we have a new real estate commissioner, and I know this is going to be a hot topic. So I'll find out what Arizona is going to be doing soon. Right now, we haven't heard much in Arizona.
So essentially a seller can, if they choose, they just do not, they will no longer be required.
That is correct. But then that means as a listing agent, we better be better at telling them why they need to pay the buyer's agent.
I mean, that's a whole nother,
that's a whole nother
topic, right?
That's a whole nother class. This is just about the buyer side. Absolutely. And the more of us that do this, the buyers are going to get comfortable doing this and getting used to it.
Yeah, agree.
And I think one of the things that I have found out, Heather, that a lot of agents have to understand, we need to go back to understanding buying a home is not a right, it's a privilege. And you need to be ready to buy into this. Where did I remember that? Look what happened in 04 and 05 and 06. People bought homes that never should have bought homes because they had no values in those properties. And that's why a third of us lost our homes in Arizona because of it. So we just need to go back to, we can't save every buyer. We can't help every buyer.
Well, and that goes, Carmen just asked a question, how do you handle this with VA buyers and first-time home buyers? And I would assume you handle it exactly the same. And if they don't have the money, then...
Well, VA buyers cannot do it on their guidelines right now. Now, I have spoken to some lenders that specialize in VA, and they actually said there is a way to do it. What you can do is you can put it on the seller side. So in other words, you can say, look, if the house is $300,000, we're going to give you $303,000. We need that $3,000 credit to come over here under the seller side to pay for the compensation. He said you can do that. And Kelly might have some more information on what we can do with the buyer's side for VA. Now we can do that with first-time buyers as well, right? But we also have to understand if they can't do it, you have to make that decision if you want to go or not. Now, I can tell you sometimes I've done it without charging them. So an example, I had a preacher, a pastor at a church who's first-time buyer. Now, he was going to pay me a compensation for the difference, but then the house didn't appraise. And we had a $5,000 hiccup that the seller was not going to budge, and he didn't have the money to come in with. So what I chose to do is say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and credit you that 0.5% you were going to pay for me, but I need 2 referrals from you by tomorrow. And he was like, you got it. So you can joke about it and say, you know what, I just need a referral. Can you do that? He's referred me so many times.
That's awesome. I also want to touch base. So what do you charge in your retainer fee? And with the retainer fee, if they purchase with you, because they pay you that up front, right? Do you just collect that?
I pay that up front. I pay it up front. So in our agreement, it says that it shall or shall not be credited towards the percentage. I do say it does not get, and my average is $500. That's what my average retainer fee is. I have gone up to as high as $1,000, and it is where they have to pay it every so many months. So like if it's every 60 days. They have to do it. Correct. I'll tell you, that makes you know what that does now? They haven't always paid it that many times, but here's what it does. You find out the motivation very quickly. Yeah. Very fast. If they're looky-loos, move on. We're not tour guides, guys. My job is not to have 5 buyers sit there for a year. On an average, 9 out of 10 of my buyers make an offer day 1. 9 out of 10. I do not mess around. I don't have time to mess around. But that's what that buyer broker agreement does.
We need that on our buyer broker agreement in our state. That would be awesome.
Do you have it? Do you have the retainer fee?
No.
Yeah, we do. Knock on wood, Old West. We're Western.
In the state of Florida, we're not allowed to receive compensation from anyone except from our brokerage. So that money would have to somehow get paid to the broker to then come to us.
Arizona's the same way. It gets paid directly to my brokerage, and then my brokerage cuts it. Yeah. And then they take their little fee, whatever that fee is. Yeah, my brokerage does the same thing. Arizona does. They do not pay it to Deanna Bone. They pay it to Fathom Realty.
And I was just going to add this one comment. This is actually not super new. If you think about the fact that, your buyer's scrolling Zillow and they see a listing that's not in MLS and they come to you and they go, what about this house? So what do? You go to the seller and you go, hey, seller, would you be willing to co-op? And they say no. And then you go back to the buyer and you go, hey, they're not willing to co-op. Are you willing to cover me? Like, I mean, it's not a brand new conversation. It's just not one we haven't had to have a lot. What and this is probably a side thing, but what I find to be interesting is our MLS does require right now some kind of compensation to be in MLS. And if that law goes away where you won't require compensation to be MLS, then you could be any seller to be in MLS, but then who pays the dues, right? Does the agent still have to pay the dues to allow any seller to go in MLS? I don't know.
I don't know. It's going to be different.
It's going to be different. Always changing. So
it's always changing. Yeah. Yes. But it's happening. It's coming. And, and when you see RE/MAX settle, anywhere real estate settle, you see Bright MLS remove it. You see RE Colorado remove it. They're telling you they know it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
They are using very vague language, though. Did you catch that?
Yes, they are.
Hold on. I can't find the exact language that they're going to change their real estate practices, I think was the exact words.
That's what RE/MAX said. Yes.
Change their real estate practices.
Heather or Kat, is there any other questions? Or anybody else?
No, not right now. Does anyone have any other questions they want to unmute or drop in the chat? You're more than welcome to.
What I'd love to hear is how many people do the buyer broker agreement? How many are? Anyone?
Not really. I'm terrible at it. I'll just be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you going to do when it's required, right?
I mean, I think this just is making my brain spin on what needs to happen with the presentations. What I do like that you do, I do everything I can to bring a buyer in and sit down with them, right? But I mean, it's appropriate just to be like, if you're going to meet me at this house, you're going to get on a Zoom with me and we're going to go over all of this stuff. I mean, a lot of buyers, unless especially first-time home buyers, they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know that they don't have to pay our fee. They don't have a clue.
No.
Sometimes they're like, so how do you get paid? And then we all say, oh, the seller pays us, versus saying, I just had a meeting with a buyer and that's exactly what I said the other day, right?
Yeah. Versus and we can't say it.
Having a formal presentation that just goes over, this is part of your closing costs and they're going to be roughly X amount.
X amount, whatever it is, because every state's different, right?
Yeah.
Every state is different. Even if your state, it's averaging your full amount, you still need to say, per the lawsuit, you're not free.
Yeah.
This is how you get paid. This is your fee. So if you're going, because there was an agent I talked to yesterday, she goes, oh, but in my state, it's 50-50 and it's always been this and we always get this. You can't say that anymore. That's per the antitrust law. You can't do it. You have to say, I am not free. This is how I get paid. Now, I do get the majority of it from the seller. Now, here's the next one. What do you do when a buyer says, wait a minute, I've never had to pay the buyer's agent before? That's one I get a lot. And I'm like, well, you know what? I can understand that. But as real estate changes every year, so does how compensation works. And let me explain to you what is happening. I've told them about the lawsuit. I've explained it to them. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. That makes total sense. So think of that. Let me make another side note. I do a lot of referrals agent to agent. I know a lot of us do here, a lot. I had an agent that I had to go back and talk to because what she was doing was telling her potential sellers, in order to get her full fee on her listing side, she said, don't worry, when you go to Arizona, you won't pay any commission. It'll be free to you. So it helped her get her full percent on her listing. She was using that. And I had to go back to her and say, oh, no. Because when I brought it up and said, your buyers were like, wait a minute, I paid her full fee because she told me you were free. So if you are saying that in your listing presentations, you better stop that right now because you just killed the deal. And I had to go back and explain that in Arizona, no, that's not true in Arizona anymore. Now it's not true in any state, right? Because we're all getting it right now. And they're like, well, we never heard that because in our small little town, this is how we do it. Well, your small little town's just going to get an eye opener if NAR loses this lawsuit. So think of that too. So how are you explaining your listing and how are you sharing that buyer and what you're doing? So that's another one that I've had to overcome. Very interesting. I'd love to know too, what was something that someone took away that they're going to implement today? Ooh, Wendy. Wendy's like, Grace.
So I do in-person buyers consultation, and it's pretty robust. I really would love to get, and I'm on your calendar, by the way, in October 5th, I think, because I am not a PowerPoint person. Oh, I hate that I say that, but I would love to get really good at putting a presentation together using what I've already got, but do it electronically, right? So then I can speed that process up. And I think I give away too much at the initial consultation. Right. So I almost feel like I need to have a teaser consultation. Like, these are all the things I do. And then you sign my agreement. And then I'll give you all the goods of my real consultation, which is very robust. And, you know, people walk away from that going, oh my God, she's amazing. And that's where I think I'm gonna do it. You know, we do a 2-step listing appointment. I'm doing a 2-step buyer's consultation.
And remember, Wendy, they don't know how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah,
they don't know how it is. And let me tell you, especially I'm in a very transient state. People are moving in and out of my state all the time, especially after 3 years. They can't handle the 120 degrees. So they're moving out. So it was very easy for me to tell the buyers, hey, you're going to meet me online first. End of story. But COVID has helped all of us to be able to make that happen. And then what I found out, buyers like it because they're scared to meet you in your office because God forbid you're going to lock the door and make them sign that moment. It scares them. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I have had less fallouts. I've had less people not show up, you know, because I go to the office and then they don't show, or they're always 40 minutes late or whatever. Well, they actually show up and then they know, well, they're in their house or their hotel room or they're in Starbucks or wherever, and they're more comfortable. And then we can have a better conversation.
Oh, I love it. No, so I just got to find someone to teach me. Maybe you, I'll pay you how to do a PowerPoint presentation.
You and I, hey, if anyone wants to do a coffee over the miles, I just ask, send me a referral.
Yes. I got you.
That's all I ask. I just want the referrals. So remember me for your Arizona referrals.
Yes, ma'am. Speed dial.
Wendy, you've helped me as well. So
Deanna, this is Susan Batchelder. How long does your retainer fee run for?
Well, when you're meaning run for, I usually do my buyer brokers for about 60 days.
Oh,
60
okay.
to 90 days.
I do 6 months.
Yeah, you can do 6 months. You could do that. But if you do it less time, you can charge another retainer fee if you want, or not. Okay. You don't have to. But if it's taking them 6 months to find a house, oh Lord, I'm doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
It's not, but sometimes it may be the second, third, or fourth house that we write on. Or eighth. I charge them an early termination fee.
You can do that too. Yep.
$175. And the other thing is, in Virginia, a couple of years ago, they pretty much changed it to you had to have a buyer's agent agreement, because in MLS, it would show up as, you know, buyer's agent compensation would be X and seller sub-agency would be 0. And I would explain to the buyers that I don't work for free, and also explain to them that basically both sides are baked into the price. That if someone was dealing with a FSBO and a FSBO was not going to pay anything, the first thing an appraiser would do would be cut 2.5% or 3.5% off the value of the home, because every other home that's listed with an agent has a 5 or 6% commission baked into it. And in DC, where I'm also licensed, you have to have a signed buyer broker agreement, because there is no seller sub-agency. And if you don't have that agreement, then you're basically opening a door for an unrepresented customer.
Now, that's not the problem. What they're saying, the problem is the buyer's agents are saying I'm free. And that we're getting paid by the seller. That's where the problem lies.
Well,
so we can't do that.
And in Virginia, and we're part of Bright.
See, you heard it. Yep. Right.
Recently they said, you know, you can pay what you want, Mr. and Mrs. Listing Agent, but you must pay something. And so sometimes you would see, you know, $200 on a $500,000 listing. Every once in a while you would see $1.
Yep.
Now it just says you don't have to pay anything as a listing agent, but you do have to cooperate.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting. So I know we're getting down to the wire, Heather, right? So is there any last words or anything you guys want to do or questions?
It was amazing, Deanna. I'm very impressed by how you do this and your success with it. I think it comes down to how absolutely confident you are. And I think my takeaway is that, I mean, you just treat it like it's a normal thing. Just like if you're doing a listing presentation, a seller knows they're going to pay a commission, whatever that amount is. So building it in as this is your closing cost, you know, just it's going to be roughly this or this. I think it's brilliant. Be confident with it. I see, again, lots of Utah people on the call. So let's all start doing this, guys. And then we'll make it normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's just make it normal. So,
and if anyone has teams or anything, I'm welcome to come. I'd love to come on for their meetings and teach them how to do it and actually show you the buyer broker. And I don't mind doing that at all. So it's definitely something that's needed and needs to come out. So thank you for having me on, Heather and Kat. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bravo.
Thanks so much, Deanna. That was fabulous.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a good rest of your week. And
thanks for putting this on, guys.
Next month. Absolutely. All right. See you, Kat. Bye.